Salut tout le monde, Jason Rockman, porte-parole du Comiccon de Québec. On est ici au Comic-Con pour notre 10e édition. I've got Jason and Elizabeth with us. You guys got to walk around Quebec. You got to see a bit of the city. From what you were telling me, seems like you guys have kind of fallen in love with Quebec.
It's
Safe
like a
to say?
fairy tale.
I mean, like I was telling you, we don't have autumn, so to see the leaves, it's just a lovely time of year. I think we hit right in the sweet spot between the slight heat that you get and winter's for real here.
That's a good way to put it. It's for real.
And I love history. I love older things. And to be able to walk on cobblestones and look at all of the old architecture is just my idea of an ideal vacation.
And that's the thing. Like when you do enough of these shows, you get invited to different places. And I'm sure, not to point any out or anything, but I'm sure sometimes you're like, oh, maybe not. And then you're like, oh, Quebec City. Most people that come always want to come back.
Well, for instance, this happens to be her birthday week. Her birthday's on the 13th.
Happy birthday.
So, which is Canadian Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Right, yeah.
But that's why we were here from Tuesday on, because when I saw where you were bringing us, we thought this might make a nice little vacation.
A little getaway,
as well.
right.
And I always look forward to seeing the people at any Comic-Con that we go to, but there are definitely cities that you get more excited about than others. And I was very excited for this city.
You play characters in properties that people spend hours and hours with. They spend a lot of time with, and they get really attached to. For a lot of actors, that haven't been in that world, they don't really understand it. But the fact that both of you live in that world, I guess you can understand when someone comes and gushes to you about how much time they spent on your character in Zelda, or does it make you go like, oh yeah, this is different than just a role in a movie?
I mean, at some point it occurred to me, I was doing a panel and a gentleman who happened to be a veteran of the Iraq campaign, who had spent some time healing in a hospital in Germany. He was missing his lower leg. This is intense, but he came up and he just wanted to thank me for the fact that he watched some series of mine, a show called Darker Than Black, while he was in recovery, and that it very much helped him.
Right.
And that was
huge.
That was almost 20 years ago. But at this point, I guess it just made me realize that I was actually doing something that could potentially help people. And, it's not always easy to keep that in mind.
No, 100%.
And it is, we've talked about this a lot. When you spend 6, 7, 8 years with a character, like working on a long-running anime, or you spend 8 months recording on a video game, we get really attached to the characters.
Oh, no,
and so it's very easy to understand why other people are so excited about them. And it's fun to be able to share I know that I voice the character, but it's like I feel like I have a mutual passion for the character that it's fun to share with fans.
I mean, often we're working on properties that can take up to 10 years to go from the beginning to the end of the final season. So if you're with a character for that duration and you actually experience their death and act out their death, at that point, 10 years in, they're part of you. They come from you. I know that you didn't invent the storyline or any of that, but as actors, it's partly our job to relate to them and to a point where you feel like they are legitimately part of you, one of your, a facet of your personality. So it's just as difficult to say goodbye to a fictional character in this particular context. I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
Is there I mean, obviously people know who you are, but is there a kind of a nice thing about being able to walk maybe in a city and people not know who you are as much as they might know you if you were, there's got to be some niceness to a bit of anonymity.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, she knows it's my favorite. The older I get, the more I like anonymity. It's like,
just being able
and
to.
I have friends who don't have that. And it's great to be somewhere with a friend like that and be able to be like, have fun.
I'm gonna go.
And it's also one of my favorite things because we both do on-camera acting
of
as
course.
well.
No, for sure.
But one of my favorite things about voiceover is that it is not dependent on how I look any given day, and that it has nothing to do with my face. It's much more to do with my imagination and what I can do with this tool. So.
Which allows for expansion of your range. I mean, naturally, we can play a much wider range through voiceover than, I mean, you're not pigeonholed in the same way.
No. You can really stretch your acting chops, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you both for being here. You're going to be here all weekend.
Yep.
And just lastly, strangest thing that's been ever given to you at a Comic-Con?
You go first, baby. I've got to think about that.
So the first thing that came to mind, not that I was necessarily given, but that I was asked to sign.
Okay.
So it was in the early days of Attack on Titan.
Okay.
And I had a Sacha Braun cosplayer come up to me with a real potato.
Oh, wow.
And asked me to sign her potato.
Okay.
And I was like, you do know that this is going to go bad in a week or two, right? And she was like, I know. I still really want you to sign it.
Yeah.
So I did the Salt Lake City Comic-Con, FanX Salt Lake, and one of my assistants happened to be a chef. And not only did he bring me a set of chef's knives that he no longer wanted, and he brought a knife for my son, who was at that point in a cooking class in his school, he also supposedly just contacted me. He's fashioned a hot sauce, a blue hot sauce, in honor of my character in My Hero Academia because he's a blue fire villain.
Oh, wow.
So he called me the other day and he's like, I've made you a case of this hot sauce if you want it. And I said, absolutely, I want it.
Did you try it?
I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
He says it's really good.
Yeah,
He
really
colored
hot.
it with the blue pea flower.
Okay.
Which is what they color the Empress gin with.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm
That's super
very
cool.
curious, but that's pretty cool.
That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
Definitely come check them out this weekend at Québec Comic Con. Viens les voir au Comiccon de Québec ce week-end.
Fais des beaux rêves.